Hey, it's Chris, back with another show talking about how we're managing our psychology and our mental health around the COVID-19 pandemic. And today I want to talk about something close to that, which is why is everyone panic buying? In a lot of areas of the world, shops are empty. It's hard to especially get like hand wash and toilet paper, but also things like bread and milk, and in some places meat and fruit and vegetables. Everyone seems to be panic buying. What's going on? What's the psychology behind that? And there are mixed opinions about this, but my personal opinion and the opinion I've seen of some of the well-researched people out there is that actually there's a lot less panic buying going on than people think. But we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the psychology. We'll talk about the reasons we might actually want to do it. So it's definitely true that a lot of shops in a lot of countries are empty. It's hard to get stuff, but that's not necessarily there because everyone's being selfish. So I see a load of stuff on Facebook of people being angry about the fact everyone's panic buying and buying more than they need, and more vulnerable customers, elderly customers, people on low incomes who can't afford to stockpile food are really struggling to get hold of the basics. And it is true that some of that is happening and it's hard, but I don't think that it's necessarily due to people hoarding and people being selfish. One of the problems we have, especially in the Western world, is that supermarkets run a lot on just-in-time deliveries. They don't have big stock rooms, so you go to like a little Tesco Express, something like that, a little convenience store, and they don't have another like massive basement where they've got thousands more toilet rolls. So if they sell out toilet rolls, they just replenish it. Actually, what happens most of the time is they have everything at big warehouses, or they have everything with the manufacturers, and at the last minute every day a truck turns up and refills the stuff. And when you go in to your convenience store and buy a toilet roll, their computer system says to the warehouse, get some more toilet rolls in from the manufacturer, then we ship them out on a daily truck to the store. Now the problem with not having those supplies on site is any rise in demand is just going to decimate the store, because they can't replace it because it's all at the warehouses and all at the manufacturers, and they bring it in at the very last minute. Now if we look at what's happened recently, well, a lot of countries closed workplaces and closed schools. So a lot of people have suddenly gone from, say in our household where we tend to eat breakfast and lunch out at the office, then we typically make the evening meal and weekends, so that's like 11 meals a week, and suddenly everyone's at home and we're all making 21 meals a week. Well, that's twice as much food. Like, you just need way more food for that, because food that you would normally get from maybe bars and cafes and restaurants that have all closed, or you would eat in the workplace, you would just pop over to the convenience store to get a sandwich in your lunch break. Suddenly we don't have those sources anymore and we need way more food. So the demand has gone up. We're suddenly feeding whole families at home. If you're not used to cooking, difficult to estimate portion sizes. Maybe just genuinely make a mistake in the amount of ingredients you need and buy more. That's a huge amount of extra food. And on top of that, we're told that we might, if we develop symptoms, we need to self-isolate. And if we're in a household, we need to self-isolate for 7 days, but everyone else in the household needs to self-isolate for 14 days because there's a 7-day incubation period. So if my wife gets sick today, she needs to self-isolate for a week, but then she might give it to me now, and then I've got 7 days of no symptoms, and then the 7 days where I could develop the symptoms. So suddenly, instead of going to the shops every day, we need to have enough stockpiled to survive for 2 weeks, which, if you're used to going to the shops every day, can be a big scary thing. But also, again, you just need loads more food. So it's not that people are being selfish and hoarding, it's that most of us genuinely just need way more food than we did before. And when you put that on top of the fact that supermarkets tend to run this just-in-time delivery where they've got all these complex and fragile supply chains that can easily break down if a lot of people are off sick, that explains why there's suddenly no food on the shelves, because supermarkets just can't scale it up like this. They don't have the stock rooms on site. They don't have the strong, durable supply chains to replenish the food as fast as people genuinely need it. So I think the reason this is important, because there's a lot of stuff going around now that it's showing the worst of humanity, and that everyone is an arsehole and they're just hoarding as much food as they can and being selfish. And I don't think that's what's going on. I think people are being sensible. They're thinking, okay, if I get ill, I don't want to go out and infect other people, so I need to make sure I've got enough stockpiled that I can keep everyone else safe. It comes from a place of altruism, and that's why people are buying more, and that's why so-called panic buying is depleting the shelves. Actually, supermarket supply chains are not as strong as they could be, and they can't cope. Now, that's not to say that there isn't some psychological benefit to our mental health in stockpiling. Sometimes having a nice stockpile of stuff can make us feel better. Like, I'm actually okay for toilet roll because I like having a ton of toilet roll in. Like, just normally when there's no pandemic, I would probably have 60 toilet rolls in. Why? Because they last forever. Like, you can buy toilet rolls and they're still good in 10 years. And so why would you risk running out of toilet roll when you can just have loads in, and you stick it in your bathroom and you never have to worry about being caught short. So if you do find that you have something like that, then it can just make you feel better, because why would you risk about that? So maybe there could be a little bit of stockpiling going on to make us feel better. And I don't think that you should necessarily be embarrassed about that. Like, buy what you need. But if you're someone that just happens to have more stuff in because it makes them feel better normally, then that's totally fine. You shouldn't have to apologize for that. The reason that people are struggling to get stuff is to do with supply chains and supermarkets. It's not down to people being selfish. It's not down to people hoarding more than they need. So hopefully that's a nice bright side of humanity for you to take away today. We've got more COVID-19 episodes coming out, so I hope you'll stick with us, hit subscribe, stay strong, and I will see you soon.